What is happening, everybody? On today's show, is Jimbo Fisher safe for at least another year? Should Dallas Turner have been ejected for targeting and arrested and sent to federal prison? And could the SEC still get two teams into the college football playoff? We're going to talk about it all with our buddy Chris Marler. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, let's dive into it. Our weekly segment with our buddy Chris Marler from the Saturday Football Uncensored podcast.
We nailed
it. Marler, we got so much to get into. We got to dive right into it. First off, we got the second round of college football playoff rankings. No change in the top 8, so who cares? Like, why are we even doing this if you're not going to change things up?
So here, my two main takeaways, and I think one was going to be a consistent theme moving forward, is I'm so tired of Michigan. And I'm so bothered by the fact that they are at 3. Just everything the committee says, and I can tell that it's already like a built-in inherent bias against Michigan for myself that's probably factoring into, so I'll be honest and transparent about that. But the fact that they're at 3, nothing changed, which I don't think they necessarily should have with like, I understand that Georgia beat a ranked opponent. I thought that was a really, really good win, and I think that they are deserving to be in that top 2. Don't think he really jumped them over Ohio State, who beat a Rutgers team who was 6-2 going into that game on the road. But I do think that, like, Michigan being at 3, and then they were coming off a bye week, Gordy, where the committee chairman said, and I quote, he's going through the resumes of how they rank everyone. He's like, Ohio State's got those 2 big wins. Penn State, and they went on the road and beat a Notre Dame team. Georgia, where you get the eye test, back-to-back national champions, and the fact they just beat a Mizzou team, blah, blah, blah. And then you got Michigan, who's played, and I quote, a little bit different kind of schedule. And then you look at what they've done on the field. Like, they were up 17-0 early in the first quarter in that game against Purdue. Purdue's 2-7. Michigan has played the 111th ranked strength of schedule during week 10 of the season is November 7th. That's outrageous. The other thing that was kind of surprising to me, and it's not surprising that I'm not saying that they should have moved up, because they shouldn't have. I think they're right where they're supposed to be. But, dude, when's the last time you watched Alabama beat LSU and the winner of that game didn't move up at all in the rankings? Isn't that crazy? They shouldn't have to. Again, very clear.
Well, look, people make it because it's a 2-loss LSU team. It's the best offense in the country. Like, let's also recognize that. Bama should have gotten a little bit of movement. I mean, they do the same thing when Bama loses. They drop them like 1 spot. But if Bama's going to beat a good team, reward them. Move them up at least. Well, like, I thought this was a perfect week. Georgia beating a top, 12-ranked Mizzou team or whatever they were ranked. Like, move Georgia up. Fluctuate it. Let Ohio State fans get mad. That's the whole point of doing the weekly rankings, is to have weekly reactions, not for you to just go, well, our rankings didn't change. Well, then why are we doing this? This is stupid. Yeah. Like, who cares?
Yeah, just wait till the end of the year. All over the place. From 11 to 25, they changed all over the place. But then as soon as they got to, like, the stuff that mattered, like, when you're literally, like, the graphic literally gets bigger for you on camera, it just, I thought that's kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, I think my favorite comments that were made, it's like, Joey Galloway made a comment about, it's good to see Tennessee move up 4 spots after beating UConn, because that was kind of an odd move. They moved up so much. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's all going to play itself out, but there's some, I've been very high on Oregon, and I kind of had that bubble burst a little bit in the fact that they've only played 1 team this year that has a winning record. Like, that's kind of crazy. And the team they beat was Utah, who had a 3rd-string quarterback playing. So how good is Oregon? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And what's really, like, you really want chaos. Florida State wins out. Washington wins out. They're both in.
Yeah.
Ohio State wins out. They're in. Georgia, I mean, the perfect scenario. 1-loss Bama beats undefeated Georgia in the SEC championship game. Who the hell gets in? and do
They both get left
both
out.
get in. Should both get in. I mean,
Mm.
I
mean, like,
should
here's
be
the thing,
best.
though. Here's the nightmare for the SEC. And I said this on Saturday, and people think I'm crazy for saying it because of the long resume that the SEC has in terms of like how they perform. This is not that. Like, this Alabama team is so much fun to watch. I'm a Bama guy, and I admit it, like I say every week, I feel like, but like, this is not a playoff team, and they could beat Georgia. Who knows? But like, you better hope that Georgia wins out or Bama wins out, because that's the only chance you have at getting in. But I tell you what, right now, man, if Ohio State wins out and they beat Michigan, or Michigan wins out and like they barely beat Ohio State, and then you have Washington went out and Florida State went out, like, you're talking about a couple of undefeated teams. Those three teams are definitely in. I'm not completely convinced. Well, no, Bama would get in that case. Never mind. I'm done. I'll stop. Texas. I'm sorry. So if like Washington wins out, and if Ohio State wins out, and then if Washington and Florida State wins out, those three teams are getting in. And Texas wins out, which they clearly could, and they're getting Ewers back. I mean, the SEC could not get a single team in the playoff.
Yeah, and it would be a nightmare scenario. But look, they've earned the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And we'll see. All right, I want to get to the other big topic. It just came out last night. Jimbo Fisher possibly safe for another year. This is from our buddy Brent Zwerneman of the Houston Chronicle. He writes, on the Aggies, Jimbo Fisher, as of early November, will get another year to, quote, get there at Texas A&M. And here's what Jimbo said this week, quote, we have the talent to win and the kids have the heart. Guys aren't backing off. They're still competing and being right there at one play away. As long as you're that close in that way and they have that look in their eyes, you can get there. I mean, that's just such like a Jimbo. We can get there, brother. We're so close. I'm telling you right now, we are so close. I mean, it's like
a crazy look in your eye.
the crazy part is here, and this is from Brent Zwerneman. Following this season, the Aggies will still owe Jimbo Fisher about $77 million on the 8 years remaining on his guaranteed deal. Jimbo ain't going anywhere, brother.
$76.8 million. I'm really big into saying this every single year, that money's not real in college football. And maybe this is the first time we're starting to realize that it is real, because that is so much money. I mean, that is so much money. Kudos to him for also getting a new sweatshirt, because that sweatshirt he was rocking last year, this time of year, that was the worst part. It wasn't like they were going 5-7. It's the fact that he got like a Cracker Barrel sweatshirt that he was rocking going the cold months or the cold weeks. Here's what I'll say right now. If they keep him for another year, because the way this contract is set up is this: it's $76.8 million right now. It goes down to 67.8 or something like that, or 67 flat, whatever, after January 1st, right? So it makes the most sense if you're trying to save money, you're gonna let him go another year. But it doesn't roll over again until January 1st of the following year. And there was talk 2 years ago that there was talk between both teams. That sweatshirt is unbelievable. If you told me that was an aunt of one of my friends in Alabama, I would believe it. No, Jimbo, there was talk, it's like how like there were rumors swirling that he might just mutually part ways, give him a sweetheart deal on the buyout, and go to West Virginia. None of that is happening. I don't even know how close it was happening. But here's the thing I'll ask you, Gordy. If you keep him for another year and you're saving $9 million, which in the grand scheme of things, if you're gonna spend the 76, it's like grabbing the extra stuff while you're walking out of Target. Like, I've already spent this much. Like, do I really need to save that much extra money? So 2024 schedule: Notre Dame, McNeese State, Bowling Green, New Mexico State. I see 3 wins there, but Notre Dame's not easy. You get Arkansas, LSU, Mizzou, and Texas all at home. Arkansas's in Arlington. Their away games: Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. I don't see 10 wins there.
That's navigatable, though. So they avoid Bama and Georgia, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's navigatable. He could go 10-2 on that.
Word?
What's that?
Is that a word?
Navigatable. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
a few more notes.
Navigatable for sure.
A few notes from Zwerneman. He says, if you remember a few years ago, that massive buyout that Auburn paid Gus Malzahn to go away 3 years ago was $21 million. That was considered a gut punch of a buyout at the time. $77 million would be the epic, like,
Yeah.
hugest buyout ever, and it would be absolutely insane. He goes on to say, A&M could at least claim one title out of this whole misadventure. Most massive buyout shelled out by a landslide. It shapes up, at least as of early November, with 3 games to go. Fisher is expected to earn at least one more year to try and right the Titanic ship dubbed Texas A&M football. From Jimbo, quote, "We got to find a way, and once you do it, I've been there, and you build slowly, and you've went down and built back up. I think they'll take off, and I think we'll do it. I've been there before." He's trying to say,
my favorite part of the Titanic sinking is when they put the ship back together and it resurfaced.
Right.
That's the best part of the Titanic.
They got to their destination, right? They finally got to where they were going. No, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
They all died.
That is like, and like Jimbo is so, I think he really does think that he's like the ultimate smooth talker. And I'm so damn charming. And he's not. Like, he's not.
Check out this last quote he had. This was talking about the young talent they had. And Zwerneman's trying to say, like, next year they'll have Connor Wegman back healthy, who will be a junior. And, like, they're going to have all these former freshmen and sophomores that are going to be juniors and seniors, and they're going to have this big group. Fisher said of his talented players, quote, "Sometimes it's like a young eagle on a cliff. Sometimes mama's just got to push them off the cliff, and you're scared if they can fly, but they take off."
Do Eagles do that? How does he know anything about Eagles? There's no chance. I hope that somebody speaks up, like, in the next, like whether it's a 12th man Aggie donation club, brother, or like just in a press conference. Like, I would give anything for someone, just to go into that meeting. Jimbo, I just want to know, I heard your comments about Eagles and how you think their mothers take care of them. That's not even close. Also, most Eagles I know didn't sign the highest ranked recruiting class in the history of college football and then have all of their I was going to say Eagle Cubs. That's not right.
Isn't that their I think their student newspapers, the Eagle there at A&M, right?
You think I know anything about newspapers in general in 2023, let alone student newspapers? You're dead wrong.
Ironically,
magazines.
Ironically, LSU's is Revelry, whatever. So I don't know. Maybe we should flip. Is Auburn's like the Roll Tide paper? Like, is it just all?
Bama's is the crimson and white.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It used to be in the 60s. It was just called the white and white, but they finally changed it.
Yeah. Well, progress. We will get to the SEC Week 11 slate with Chris Marler here in just a second. A whole lot more here on Locked On SEC. All right, but first, we want to remind you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. Look, a lot of you guys have been reaching out and telling me what great success you've been having with Prize Picks. They are the most fun. You will have up to 25 times your money this football season, and now you can play during basketball season as well. It's simple. It's real simple. You just select 2 players or more. You pick more than or less than on their projected stats, and you place your entry. And of course, with basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across both football and basketball from their specials league, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports. So, for example, you want LeBron James and 3-pointers made, and you want Travis Kelce and receptions, and you go the combo over 10.5. Very simple. If they do that, you hit a winner, and it's awesome. So go check them out at Prize Picks. They even offer a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't come back in the second, the player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use promo code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, it is prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use promo code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It is Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, we continue on with our buddy Chris Marler from the Saturday Football Uncensored podcast. And Marler, as we dive back into it, we do have a full slate of games this week, so we're going to jump into it, but I'll get your thoughts along the way. We'll talk about Dallas Turner and a few other things. But let's start with the Week 11 slate. We'll start with the not such great games. We'll just kind of run through these real quickly. 12 Eastern on the SEC Network. It's 2-8 Vandy at 3-6 South Carolina. South Carolina, a big win, but man, they had to gut that one out against Jacksonville State a week ago.
Dude, that is like Jacksonville State was going in to win that game or at least tie it up. I'm all for celebrating the wins. I really am. I think it's something in life in general. I think it's good for your mental health, and I think we beat ourselves up so much already. There's no reason to continue to pile on, especially with this day and age of social media and people piling on from the outside and blah, blah, blah. But Shane Beamer immediately going to his press conference. I don't know if I've ever seen someone. He's Dan Mullen without the wins, and that's sad to say because it's like I've never seen someone go into their press conferences and immediately make everyone else out to be the bad guy,
right.
Take no blame, and like it is the most weirdly aggressive and like irrational response seemingly almost every week. His comment about that's the reason why you don't play on that team. That's the reason why you're not on that team at locker. No, it's not. I'm 37. I'm 37, Shane. That's why I'm not on your stupid team. Like, what are you talking about?
It did feel like you didn't play, like former football players, like you didn't play the game. You can't talk about it. Like, okay, whatever. Fans have a right to say we're underachieving at 3-6. By the way, they're 13.5 point home favorites against Vandy. Do you take them minus
too high?
Points?
Too high. It was 15.5 when it opened. It's now Tuesday when we're recording this, and that is still too high.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, I'm with you on that one. 3:00 Central on the SEC Network. This is always a good game. I know the records stink, but 5-4 Auburn at 3-6 Arkansas. Auburn's kind of getting themselves together. They're winning some games. And Arkansas, huge win on the road at Florida last week, scoring 39 points after firing Dan Enos. Arkansas, a 3-point home favorite in a team that's 3-6.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. But if you start looking at some of the numbers between Auburn and what they've done on the road versus at home, like it's night and day. And I don't want to hear about Vandy. My girlfriend's not going to listen to this podcast, no offense. She doesn't listen to mine, so I know she's not going to listen to this one. She's an Auburn grad, so I don't feel bad for making this joke. But, dude, how low do you have to be as a program to take the social media and really, really drive the point home about how different your fan base is because you took over Nashville? Everyone takes over Nashville. And I mean, not just in the SEC. I mean, white girls, it's bachelorette parties. It is Scottsdale East, and it is wild that they really, honestly, they didn't even sell it out. And they were just like, there's no other team that does this. Buddy, every team does this. Every team does this. I think this is a really
take over Nashville. So
yeah, this is like a massive, massive, I think, game for Auburn because they have looked really bad on the road. And, if you win this game, you can start taking a look at some stuff like, man, year one under Freeze, we were close to beating Georgia. We were hanging in there at Ole Miss. Who knows what happens in the Bama game in a couple weeks when you get them at home in Jordan Hare. But at the same time, if you lose this game, it's like, oh, my gosh, things are way worse than I thought. And now we're going to play 3-6 Arkansas, who's coming off a huge win. And I love the fact that KJ Jefferson got that moment, especially late. I'll tell you the most impressive thing that I saw from that game. Florida's sitting there with a chance to get bowl eligible, which is big for Napier, I think, right now, and where the team was before the season. They're sitting there with 5 wins. They did everything they could to lose this game, but in the overtime game or the overtime possession for Arkansas, KJ Jefferson on first running through people, and the lack of want from some of these Florida players that did not want to tackle him, and that I wouldn't want to tackle him. He's a massive human being. But I love the fact that the fight was still there for Arkansas, and I wonder what that looks like this week at home. It's a really big game for both teams.
You take Razorbacks -3?
1,000%, yeah.
Okay. Night games, 6:30 Central on ESPN2. It's 4-5 Mississippi State at 5-4 A&M. A&M, a 19-point home favorite. Look, Max Johnson he's been serviceable, but he ain't that good. But no. Mississippi State's been a disaster. There's some talk of maybe even being one and done with Zach Arnett. I think his buyout's only like $3 or $4 million, but for Mississippi State, that's a pretty good chunk of change. I don't know. I'm leaning Mississippi State in the points, but this is one A&M's got to win, right?
I would think so. And I'm trying to pull up something right now, a stat that I should have looked at before we started talking, of course, and didn't. But no, I think you're right. I think when you I think the line is probably closer to right. 19.5 is still a decent amount. Like, that's still a decent amount for a team that has really struggled. But listen. I said this last week. I don't want to bang the drum for underachieving ever, except for in my own life. But for Jimbo especially, you've lost 4 games this year. All 4 of the games have been on the road. You lost at Alabama, right? Well, that was no. Yeah. What? Is that a home game? No,
Tennessee, they lost at Ole Miss. They lost to Bama. Okay.
So you lost to a top 10 team at home with Bama. Lost at Miami, who's whatever. At least they're talented. You lost on the road against Ole Miss, who's a top 10 team, and it's on the road. And you lost. Help me out here. You just said it. I forgot already. Tennessee, who's a top 15 team as well, and that was on the road. So it's not like it's been the easiest slate of games. You haven't lost to, for lack of better examples, you didn't lose to Louisiana Monroe. You didn't lose to, like 2019 Georgia lost to like 4-8 South Carolina home. You didn't lose any of those games. I think the season's over for Mississippi State. If you're A&M, you would love to see one big win. Like, you would love to see one big win to kind of, because it's not coming in Baton Rouge. And also Max Johnson, it makes, I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, my blood pressure at an all-time high. Every time, get rid of the football. His entire existence.
Every time he throws, he jumps. I'm like, what are you doing?
And everything he does is like, it's like watching someone try to get off the train tracks as a train is barreling down on them. Like, it is like the most like last second, like, get rid of the ball every single time he drops back. It's infuriating to watch.
He throws across his body, falling away. It's like it's like a fadeaway shot in basketball. Yeah. Like, what are you doing, dude? You like Aggies minus the 19?
I do, but only because I don't know if A&M can score, or if Mississippi State can score points.
All right, one more here. The night game on SEC Network, 6:30 Central. It's 5-4 Florida at number 14 LSU. LSU a 14-point home favorite coming off the loss at Alabama, but we don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to play. They may have to roll with Garrett Nussmeier, who has looked okay in mop-up duty this year, or backup duty. But he looked great in the SEC championship game against Georgia. So don't really know what you're going to get with him, but we do know Florida has not looked good on the road this year. Mostly most of their losses have been on the road.
Perfect get-right game for LSU. And I trust Brian Kelly to focus the troops on this one. You come back after a pretty disappointing loss. That's another team. Okay, you got 3 losses. You're not where you want to be. But, man, you lost in heartbreaking fashion at Ole Miss. A shootout because you just couldn't stop anybody. You had I really thought they had a really good chance to win that game, regardless of what happened with Jaden Daniels. You lose your quarterback late against Bama, so kind of into the game earlier than you would have expected, but that's on the road against the top 10 team. Basically, you really struggled with. And then also, you're away from home in that loss to Florida State. So your losses, you're looking at this, you've lost to 3 top 10 teams. All 3 of those games are away from home. Florida sucks. No offense to Florida fans listening to this, but Florida sucks. This is not the year. So this is a massive, massive spot for LSU. I think either way, if he's healthy or not, I like them to win and cover. But I think that this is a really, really good get-right game for LSU. Feel-good game against a semi-rival at home at Death Valley at night. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, we got 3 more big games to hit on with Marler. We'll do that with you in just a sec. And we continue on here on Locked On SEC. Remind you about our friends over at FanDuel. Look, score throughout this NFL season and the college football season with FanDuel. They are America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That is $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Again, the app is super easy to use. They got all the different betting options you'd want, from spreads to player props, over-unders. All of them are there for you. Go visit them right now. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's going to get you that extra bonus that you're looking for when you sign up for the first time. And come on, roll through the NFL season and the college football season with our friends over at FanDuel. They are FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. And as we dive back into it with our buddy Chris Marler from the Saturday Football Uncensored podcast, Marler, we've got 3 more games in the SEC we need to hit on quickly. 12 Eastern on ESPN is number 8, Alabama at 6-3. Kentucky, fresh off their win against LSU. Dallas Turner, it will not be suspended for this game. He will play I mean, he is the most wanted man in the SEC. Will he try to take Devin Leary out? We'll see. He loves taking quarterbacks out of games. But Bama only a 10.5-point favorite. Mitch Barnhart said they're going to open up the tailgate lots an hour earlier. They want everybody in at 7 a.m. drinking and getting sobered up or liquored up for this game. So perfect little trap spot here for Alabama to play a close one with the Wildcats.
Yeah, just let me say one thing, and I want everyone to hear me clearly on this. I just the fact that Dallas Turner is not behind bars or a POW right now in Gitmo, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And the fact that they didn't call targeting, even though they called a 15-yard penalty that was flagged in this, and that he came out of the game and his own coach put him back in the game one play later, the fact that that happened and none of us want to talk about it, it's sickening. It's just sickening. And I think T-Bob Hebert put it best, and that is, you want your players to get after quarterbacks, and every good football player I've ever known wants to cradle the quarterback when they're taking him down, especially in a game of that nature. So hate that he's allowed to play. Going into Kentucky, I'll just be honest. I've been the main person who's tried to dial down any of the hype around Bama. I said they would lose to Texas, and I was spot on. Every big game since then, I've been like, they're probably gonna lose by 10 points. This may come back to bite me, but I'll just say it because I think that I'm so tired in the Kentucky hype train anyway. What is the path for Kentucky to win? You better have a Steven Garcia-esque type game from Devin Leary, right? So maybe he goes to the tailgate beforehand and he gets a little liquored up himself so he can morph into the Steven Garcia role. There's no chance for Kentucky to win this game. The 10.5 points scares me. Vegas, I'm kind of shocked about it. It is a perfect trap game type situation, and I'm sure they'll be hyped for it. But I bet they were probably hyped for Georgia. I bet they were probably hyped for Tennessee. I bet they're probably hyped for Mizzou.
I'll say this: Alabama or LSU ran the ball on Bama last week. Granted, it was mostly with Jay Danielson. But Logan Diggs, he moved the pile of times. Ray Davis is the number 2 leading rusher in the SEC, or number 1. I forget. Him and Cody Schrader go back and forth. But anyway, you got that. And then Bama's had their fair share, or Kentucky's had their fair share of pick sixes. De'Aaron Jackson just had one a week ago. They have a couple of their DBs. So, that's what it would – to answer your question, that's what it would take. It would take –
How many points do they have to be up at halftime?
What's that?
How many points do you think they have to be up at halftime? Because I think that is the nightmare scenario. It's but Bama's made so many great second half adjustments that we just haven't seen good teams that are better than Kentucky, not in a rude way, but Tennessee got points in the second half. Ole Miss scored 3 points in the second half. LSU scored 7. I don't see a situation where Kentucky and Devin Leary are going to come out and light the world on fire for 60 minutes. If you do it for 30, I could see it. I still feel comfortable that all the things that would have to go bad for Bama would have to come in the second half.
I could see this game being 10-7 Bama at the half, and then Bama wins 31-10, something like that. Heartbeat. Yeah,
if they won 11-10, I would take that too. Just get to Atlanta.
It feels like it's going to be a letdown, sleepy, groggy defensive first half. We'll see what happens. All right, 2 more games to get to. 3:30 Eastern is number 17 Tennessee -1 at number 12 Mizzou. Total letdown game for Mizzou, right? You just put all your eggs in the basket to go after Georgia. You played your ass off against them. You lose on the road, and then you can come back home and get run all over by Tennessee in that dominant run game. It just feels like a letdown for Mizzou.
Tennessee is favored now, huh?
Yeah, Tennessee -1.
Mizzou was favored at first by 3 points, I thought.
Well, it's flipped.
Yeah, that's scary then, because I do think that this is you nailed it, Gordy. What does the team look like in terms of being able to piece back-to-back games? Can you get up off the mat? And that's a situation that hasn't always been great for Mizzou. Mizzou's really, really good at dominating some teams that you wouldn't necessarily think they would, like Arkansas, South Carolina. They are not great at beating the teams that would be a huge upset. Look at you. You're doing so much better at the pictures. That's a lovely picture of Eli. Also phenomenal sweatshirt. I think that this is a game that would be – this is the statement win for Mizzou this year if they can get this win. I just don't trust that they can. But also Joe Milton away from home has not been great. And I don't know. I think again, you nailed it on the head. Like they're gonna have to run the football effectively and repeatedly for them to beat Mizzou.
It's unbelievable and they ran the ball well last year, but Tennessee was a pass first team, and this year they're like this dominant run team that they pass a little bit, but they're just dominant running the football. It's crazy.
Sure.
All right, last game, nightcap, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN is number 10 Ole Miss at number 2 Georgia. Georgia around a 10.5-point favorite. The crazy thing about this game, Marler, I keep going back and forth. Like, this game doesn't matter. Like,
nope.
for Georgia, if they lose, so what? They're still going to SEC championship game, and if they beat Bama, they're going to the playoff. So, like, the only thing that's on the line here is Georgia's perfect season, or keeping their home win streak alive, or whatever. For Ole Miss, like, if they win, they're not winning the West. They're not so what? A New Year's Six bowl? Well, you did that already a couple years ago in Matt Corral. So I get it. Like, both teams want to win this game, and I guess it means a little something. But, like, to me, it's like, who cares? Like, if Ole Miss wins, who cares? If Georgia wins, who cares? Like, it doesn't. Nothing huge happens either way.
I disagree completely, to be honest. I think it's a huge win for Lane Kiffin. And I don't think that if Georgia loses it.
But like, what, you go to a New Year's Six bowl? Who cares? They want more than that at Ole Miss.
Do they?
They've never been to Atlanta. Marler, like, beat Bama, you're going to Atlanta this year.
Dude, if Georgia loses this game, they have the 90th ranked strength of schedule right now in the country. They finish out with Georgia Tech and Tennessee. If they win out, there's people keep saying this, that like there's a clear path for, like, Georgia better be 12-0 or 13-0 to get into the playoff. Now, like, I fully get that if
they lose this game and they win out, Kirby Smart, just like Saban would do, Kirby will be on every episode of SportsCenter, Paul Feinbaum going, well, clearly, look, we're going for a three-peat. I mean, the Georgia excellence, we have just been the most dominant team in college football for the past 3 years. They're going to sell that narrative. Again, it should be year to year, but the past 2 years will come into play for Georgia.
And the committee will probably look at the strength of schedule and say, well, you have the 90th ranked strength of schedule going into a home game against Ole Miss, who barely beat LSU, who lost against Alabama, who barely beat, like, all these other teams, and all of a sudden you're like, okay. Like, I mean, look, listen, I'm gonna give you a number right now. You look at the top 10, the opponent's winning percentage as of right now, and this will change, right? But like the opponent's winning percentage right now, Georgia has the lowest of any team in the top 10 at 38.5%. 38.5%. That is a average of 3 and 5.
Well, they wanted to play. They wanted to play Oklahoma, but old Greg,
I don't care. They didn't. I wanted to be skinny this year. I didn't do that. I want to be able to be flexible enough to touch my toes. I can barely touch my calves. Like, things happen.
I don't even know why we're talking about this, because Ole Miss isn't.
Or my calves.
Ole Miss has no chance in this. But Georgia wins. No chance. They win big.
He's 4-23 all-time as a head coach against teams that finished ranked in the top 25. I think this is a perfect spot for Georgia. You're at home. It's at night. You didn't get the CBS game. And after last week's broadcast with this D team that they had to listen to, I don't think they ever want a CBS podcast again. My God. Reggie Miller looking good. Gives it to the man. And boom, goes dynamite for 3.5 straight hours.
Bring back. And then there was for the Nazir Stackhouse interception, there was like no excitement. Like, what?
No.
That was the biggest play of the game.
I'm pretty sure he called him by the wrong name, and then was like, "Oh, he's going." It's just like that was wild. So,
all right, well, that's gonna do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Appreciate you joining us, Marler, and we'll check you out over there on Saturday Football Uncensored.
Yeah, and hey, real quick too, I appreciate you having me on. As always, it's my favorite show of the week. To your listener that said. He only reason he knows who I am is because you're kind enough to let me on the show, the LSU fan. I just want to say thank you for knowing who I am, because I still don't know who you are, and I hope you're having a miserable week. Love all of you, except for that guy. Roll Tide with an EAUXL.
Well, it's kind of like, this is more like a work release parole thing, and we have to have you on to help you out. So
this is I'm basically just in the Saban's rehab coaching or coach's rehab thing, but with you, I appreciate you doing that for me. I need it.
Yeah.
I love it on the show, man. I appreciate it. I got to go get ready for mine, and I will talk to you later.
All right, that's Chris Marler there of the Saturday Football Uncensored podcast. That is it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers coming back and checking us out. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, getting you caught up on all the latest news as we get closer to the weekend of SEC Week 11 right here on Locked On SEC.